What? Goodbye, Doctor. Maria!
And so the neutral storyline was all just a dream that Eggman had when he woke up that morning. Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully and welcome back to the other alternate hallucination path of Shadow the Hedgehog. We're at one of my favourite levels in the hero pathway, Death Ruins. I love the musical track that plays here, which was reportedly a remix of another certain song that appeared in X-Men Legends 2 for the Danger Room, I think. Yeah, it's been a while since I researched it, but yeah, radical music. I honestly kind of prefer this version to the one in X-Men Legends 2 because, well, more rockin', more powerful, totally radical, dude. Anyway, Death Ruins. The reason why it's one of my favourite stages is, well, because, I mean, beyond Sky Troops, which I felt was a little bit too copy-paste of Glyphic Canyon, especially for being in the same pathway, what I like about this one is that it's very earthy in nature, but it's also got a lot of that sort of grit, and, again, it's an art style that I can't help but love. I mean, again, I know Shadow the Hedgehog's art style for a lot of people is seen as ugly, and I can agree with that to a certain extent in terms of visual fidelity, because the renderware engine wasn't really one that was particularly powerful in delivering some fantastic visuals. I mean, unless of course you had the hardware to run it, of course. Because, I mean, there are a few games that do use the renderware engine on the Xbox that look quite nice, but then again, the Xbox is a console that outputs into HD. And I'm actually curious as to how Shadow the Hedgehog on the Xbox looks. I mean, I can't imagine it looks much better, but then again, you never really know, because I recall seeing some stuff on Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex, where the Xbox version has not only faster load times, but also better visual fidelity, as well as, like, fur textures on Crash and Coco. I don't know. It's just interesting to see differences between ports before consoles became, well, what's basically the equivalent of having a supercomputer in your own house. Excuse me, anyway, after taking a quick break and having a delicious meal, I am now back to record more of Shadow the Hedgehog. I can hopefully finish this tonight if I have the mind to it, although then again, I've probably got other things I should be doing, but whatever, I'll put them out of my mind for the time being, because Shadow the Hedgehog comes first. Now, a lot of what the hero missions are going to be pertaining to is basically seek and destroy. In this case, it's going to be taking out a lot of the black arm soldiers that you're going to be finding. I mean, it makes sense since they are invading. There is also a cutscene that I didn't show you before, which is basically the gun commander going, "Authorize full use of tactical weapons. Shadow the Hedgehog, grrr, I'm very angry," which, in the hero storyline, has even less relevance because the gun commander's plot isn't even followed up with. And secondly, with this, storyline, it's expected that Shadow's meant to be a bit more heroic, so why is he going after him? It's weird, because the gun... Again, I know I brought it up before, but the whole Metal Gear Solid 5 comparison really becomes strong here, because the gun commander wasn't in Sonic Adventure 2, so you would have thought when he was released, that probably would have been a bigger thing to be concerned about. I don't know, it's what you... I guess, if I could give it a name, I'd probably call it the Xehanort effect, because... yeah, because by having these sorts of retconned characters where they didn't exist before, you end up making some of the previous decisions you made in the story a little bit more redundant. And I guess Xehanort is an apt comparison in this case, especially when you consider the Kingdom Hearts series became very, very labyrinthian the moment they introduced that shit in Birth by Sleep. Excuse me, I've got a cough for some reason. I must have... don't know if I picked something up, but whatever. This is for my friend. Yeah, and pretty much all the gun soldiers in this game are voiced by Andrew Reynolds, who I think is actually on Broadway now, like as a singer, which is surprising. I mean, I guess people's careers do go on. I just didn't expect the random civilian voice guy from Sonic X to take off as much as he did, I suppose. I suppose for the sake of just talking some more, I could probably talk more about the 4Kids voice actors. What would I really think of them? Because these are the voices that I grew up with. Like, I mean... again, I am so used to listening to Jason Griffith as Sonic and Shadow that they are the voices... well, they're not the voices that I immediately think of because I have played the adventure games more times than I can count. But in terms of when I'm thinking about, Sonic or Shadow or pretty much a lot of the cast here, I typically think of this cast. bearing a few exceptions in mind. I mean, usually whenever I see Knuckles, my instinct is to hear Scott Dryer's voice in his character. I don't know. Yeah, just one of those weird things, I guess, when you associate an iconic voice with a character. I guess akin to things like Guy Seehey as James Sunderland, Alison Court as Claire Redfield. The sort of things that just stick in your mind.
A Chaos Emerald? You've got to be kidding me, guys. This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me.
Shadow, help me!
Maria?
Please, Shadow, I need your help. My grandfather's experiments. Something's gone horribly wrong.
What is it?
The research lab. It's going to be destroyed. Something must be done. Please, Shadow, I beg you. Help Grandfather and those aboard the Ark. Please!
I'll be there, Maria. I swear. Whatever it takes. I'll take care of the Ark and the Professor.
I don't know if I'm going to add the Linkara clip in here or into the review when I eventually get around to this game, but our hero, ladies and gentlemen, on the pure hero pathway, Shadow the Hedgehog decided that it would be in his best interest to screw over his friends and heroes by taking their Chaos Emerald, which is powering their ship, and of course deciding to say one of the most dickish fucking lines I've ever fucking heard. Looks like it's my lucky day. This is like taking candy from a baby, and this isn't just the only instance. I mean, earlier on in Circus Park, like when Shadow was, you know, getting the Chaos Emerald from Tails, he's like, oh, Tails dropped a Chaos Emerald. Must be my lucky day. Like, I mean, which implies, I mean, in the semi-hero pathway, it's implied that he's just out for his own answers while being slightly heroic about it. Here, though, it makes no fucking sense for him to be acting this way, which is part of the reason why I don't consider this canon. Alongside another reason of which, mainly being the fact that it's a little bit more generic, in terms of I'm Shadow, I'm a hero, I've decided what I want immediately, without any sort of dramatic pathos that I feel the semi-hero pathway divulges into a little bit better than that. But anyway, you're probably wondering why I'm avoiding talking about this, but yes, this is Lost Impact. The big level, the one critique that everybody has against Shadow the Hedgehog, and yes, I am in agreement with it. This level is too fucking big, for one thing. So let's begin from simple beginnings. What is the Lost Impact? It is a level where Shadow flashes back to his past, and he's there to help Maria, who you can actually take control of. Like, I mean, if you plug in the second controller into the PS2 port, you can actually play around as Maria, jump on it. I believe she can also slap things around, so yeah, you can kick some ass as Maria if you want to. Anyway, again, I think the biggest complaint about this level, outside of its length, is more so the seek and destroy mission structure, which, out of every single complaint I think is uttered against Shadow the Hedgehog, I think the whole, oh, you have to kill things and it's boring, doesn't really hold a lot of water to me, but in this level alone, I will agree with you on that, because every other level in Shadow the Hedgehog, as I mentioned in the previous parts, you know, they're all very narrow, very self-contained, designed in a manner similar to a third-person shooter crossed with Sonic Adventure 2. I mean, it's a sort of level where, unless of course you're running about like a deranged spaz, you should be able to get everything that you need to kill, provided that you're not, you know, blatantly missing shit by rushing or just not paying attention. This level, however, is open. You have no mini-maps save for the useless maps that are on the wall, which barely locate your position. And, well, this level gets long-winded, and to spare you the boredom of having to play this, I will chaos control or possibly just jump cut whenever I start getting bored or have nothing to say, because Lost Impact is a level that I think had a lot of potential to really sort of explore the atmosphere and vibe of the Ark, you know, both before and after the incident was happening. But unfortunately, both in terms of story and in terms of, you know, anything really, exposition or gameplay or just like background audio logs even, you don't get anything about, you know, the details surrounding the Ark conspiracy, which, in Sonic Adventure 2, there was a document that did detail a lot of the stuff that went down around the Bio-Lizard and the Eclipse Cannon and Project Shadow. I mean, granted, you can't read it in-game, and it's only there for a brief few seconds on the computer that Rouge has, You can find a transcript on Sonic Retro, I believe, so I do highly recommend you go off and take a look at that for explanations. I mean, it doesn't mention the Black Arms in any sort of capacity. However, even in that case, it still gives background on the Space Colony arc and why the humans feared the research that Gerald was doing, and why they sent a patrol up there to stop him. Keep in mind, this was before the Black Arms were invented and before Shadow the Hedgehog's origins were slightly retconned to fit Black Doom into his origin. And when it comes down to it, this comes down as a level that not only probably could have been left on the cutting room floor, but its assets could have been used to be rearranged into a much better level, a much more linear, and, oh, just a better flowing level, because, I mean, in this level's defense, on an artistic standpoint, I love the way the Space Colony arc looks. I mean, it's got a nice, Matrixy-looking cyberpunk sort of vibe to it, and again, it evokes some of the similar familiar feelings that you have with Sonic Adventure 2 during a lot of the arc levels in that game, and it's just, to me, it just looks nice, despite this game's visual style having aged over the near 15 years that it's been out. I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't really know what I probably would have suggested in lieu of the Space Colony arc levels. I suppose if I was to take a look at the direction of the game, I honestly would have used these sorts of levels to demonstrate what happened through, you know, actual cutscenes. You know, actually exploring the dynamic both Maria, Shadow, and the Gun Commander had with one another, as well as seeing, you know, hints about Project Shadow, the stress that Gerald was under, and ultimately all the things that culminated in some of the darker elements of Sonic Adventure 2, like, you know, Gerald, after having snapped and lost everything that he ever loved, having gone insane and just concocting his revenge. Again, there's a lot of people might not like the idea of Sonic delving into some darker territory, but if there was any time to do it, Shadow the Hedgehog was it, and given some of the stuff that is in Sonic Adventure 2, I honestly wish it did capitalize on it. I mean, you don't need to have swearing or guns or, you know, blood or anything just to make your story dark. It needs to have weight and consequences, and Shadow the Hedgehog, while it does attempt to have it and does sometimes succeed, it ultimately just falls short of the mark because it plays itself out like an action game, which, you know, is fine. I enjoy the action parts of the game, but I do think there is a way to better counterbalance the story momentum and, you know, extreme action gameplay in a way that I think can satisfy both, you know, Sonic fans that just want a game that shuts the fuck up and gets going, but also people who want to really get invested in the mythology and, you know, the characters in the series. But of course, this game, and alongside a certain other game which needs no introduction, completely screwed that over, so it's unlikely that we're ever going to be getting anything like this ever again, or at the very least anything that could have improved upon its structure. I'm sad now. I suppose if there is anything I can say in terms of how to approach this level to get it done the quickest, it would be that you should honestly take it slow, methodically search around for any sorts of aliens, and by doing that and searching thoroughly, you should be able to get through it. This will not be fun on your first time through, and even on repeated playthroughs, it is still pretty bullshit, but it's a way to clear it comfortably without wanting to jam a knife inside your neck. Well, I mean, that's pretty much all the advice I have. If there was any last things I had to say about this level, fuck me, I just had something to say and I completely forgot it. Just want to remember it. Fuck me, you ever have one of those moments where you, like, have something completely on the forefront of your mind and then it just vanishes in a flash? Well, it's gone forever now, so I guess to cut down on, editing data space, whatever shit, Chaos Control / warp jump cut thing, activate.
Oh, Shadow, thank you.
And so that's the Lost Impact. Oh, that's what I was going to talk. I was going to talk about the fucking music. Yeah, actually, in Lost Impact, if you listen to the song very closely, you can actually hear a bit of a sample of, fuck, was it Rusty Ruins from Sonic 3D Blast, the Saturn soundtrack? Bit of an odd duck to remix, especially considering the fact that I think Jun Sonoy was responsible for the soundtrack when Richard Jakes, God, I apologize for butchering that name, was responsible for the Saturn soundtrack, so, yeah, people who like Sonic 3D Blast should be cheap as well, happy. I don't even know my metaphors anymore, I'm just completely out of it. I don't even know what's responsible for it anyway, but whatever. Now we get to Final Haunt, a level which I actually think has some pretty decent build-up to it. I mean, again, despite the pure hero storyline being, well, not my favourite, there is a real sense of, hell yeah, we're the heroes of this story, we're gonna kick the villain's ass and, you know, take him down. Maybe that's just by virtue of having Sonic along with you for the ride, but I don't know, it's kinda nice, I like it. I guess the only real negative I have of this is really that the level design seen here is basically a shot-for-shot remake of The Last Way. Or I suppose The Last Way is a shot-for-shot remake of this. But I mean, apart from that, I don't really have any sort of complaints. I mean, it's a bit of a long level, but again, one that does feel appropriate for a final boss fight against Black Doom. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about the level apart from that, but I suppose I should probably also go into another bit of trivia that I just remembered, and I was going to bring it up in Lost Impact, but I figured, fuck, I might as well do it here, since I think it is applicable throughout the entire game. As I mentioned back in Part 1, I believe I mentioned that this game, during its conceptual phase, well, either during development or during its conceptual phases, I forget which, was initially meant to have a control scheme similar to that of the Ratchet & Clank games, and it does sort of still show, because Shadow does have a strafe feature if you press L2 and R2. But yeah, this game was initially going to resemble more Ratchet & Clank, I guess, with a little bit more Sonic speed injected into it, because, you know, Shadow rocket skates and everything. And an interesting little tidbit that was going to be in Shadow the Hedgehog was an radar. Basically a radar similar to the stuff you would see in the multiplayer of Ratchet & Clank 3, where you could see, you know, the minimap, you can see enemies which I believe were colored green, objectives in blue, and I believe the dark side characters in red. Which does make me wonder why the hell they cut that out. I don't know, I mean, again, this is based on stuff that I read from websites years and years ago, so it might not be entirely accurate, and even in that case, since Japanese video game developers don't really talk openly about their development cycles anyway, it's unlikely that we'll ever see anything from this. But I mean, if that's the case, then it's a bit disappointing that they cut that out, because I think that honestly would have cut people's complaints in half about, you know, not being able to find the aliens or anything. Especially in the case of Lost Impact, which, well, Lost Impact and the Doom, I think the level's name is, which we'll probably be getting to quite soon. Yeah, I plan on trying to smash out 2 storylines this video, so we'll just have to see how things roll, I suppose. I suppose I could probably talk more about the Black Arms as a concept in and of themselves. I mean, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the video or if this is just a thought that I've had in my head for years and years and years, but I mentioned before with Black Doom about how his character could have been used to better effect as maybe putting him in a dichotomy between him and the humans. Because, I mean, given all the organic stuff that you're seeing around here, you know, with all the growths and plants and structures and everything, I think it honestly could have evoked some sort of, like, alien culture where they deem the Black Arms as superior beings purely because they exist in a hive mind, as well as being creatures that are born more so of natural origins, whereas the humans rely more on technology, and because of the fact that they are separate entities, Black Doom sees them all as inferior, all of them are out for themselves, and they do little to, you know, feed into each other, which I think could have been used for some legitimate pathos, because since Shadow was born with the express purpose of being there to help humanity and live in service of other people, you know, based on Gerald's, or at least what Gerald told him at the time, which I feel could have possibly pulled into his downfall, where he could have been manipulated by Black Doom into thinking that he was doing the right thing by aiding the Black Arms, who truly had humanity's best interests in mind and using them as a food source to fuel the Black Arms empire. But again, they never really do anything with them, that just... the potential is here, you know, and they don't live up to it, which makes me so depressed. I suppose if there was any sort of drawback to this level, in terms of anything else, beyond being a little bit long-winded, is really its stop-and-go mantra. Again, I don't think it's anything that'll make you jam a knife inside your neck, but it is something that I think will probably annoy some people. And also why it's probably best you have chaos control within certain points of the story. Well, certain points of the level, I should say. I guess the only other real big thing to talk about, which I just suddenly forgot in an instance, what is going on with my mind right now? Trying to remember. Oh yeah, I was talking about the missions. Yeah, basically, get to the goal ring is pretty much the mission, although, in terms of context, we're meant to be following Black Doom, who has, like, holographic projectors which act as shields, that are basically diverting Sonic and Shadow from getting to their true goal. I don't know, seems interesting, but you know, I guess it's a little bit more of that context which I really love. I mean, it could have just been get to the goal ring, get Chaos Emerald, and that's it, but no, they actually have like a story reason. You know, we've got to find Black Doom. Which one is the real one? Which one is fake? Excuse me. Anyway, I'm gonna be taking a drink because my throat is really fucking dry. And also I'm gonna be skipping over the boss fight against Black Doom because it's pretty much the same thing that you saw during the semi-hero pathway. Same sort of tactics, same sort of anything. It's pretty much the same sort of ending minus the pathos that made it, you know, that made the semi-hero pathway canon in my eyes. But yeah, beyond that, I'll just talk for a little bit more and waste a little bit more time until I can finally get a drink because my throat is very dry. But yeah, we're on the final stretch at this stage. Also, I really love the music for this stage. Just wanted to get that out there. Don't touch that, because that will launch a shield that will stop you from reaching Black Doom.
Must be linked to a switch somewhere back.
Finally, I've got all the Chaos Emeralds.
Shadow. This isn't over yet. The Black Arms will rise again.
Let's do this!
I'm Shadow the Hedgehog, and I made a promise that I intend to keep. With the power of these emeralds, Black Doom and his army are finished! This is who I am! Maria! What's going on with me? I can't get these images out of my mind. Those black creatures. How do they know me? Who was I before this? What?
Shadow, you seem troubled.
You!
Look.
That's the...
Yes, that's right. The space colony Ark. 50 years ago.
The Ark? 50 years ago? That's... me.
That's right. This will remind you what the humans did to you. Never forget that horrifying image.
You know, the way in which I'm setting all these up by having the little flashback of Maria come up, I'm actually kind of tempted to do like a little storyline thing where everything that Shadow was seeing is basically just a hallucination or his mind just going off into a random direction. I mean, it's dark as fuck, but like... it's almost as if Shadow was constantly reliving the events of this game in a sort of like... well, I think Time would probably be putting it pretty simply, but if you've ever seen the Doctor Who episode, Heaven Sent... Oh, that's what I'm going to title this part, actually. Well, I mean, considering the fact that I'm doing 2 storylines in one today, Heaven Sent / Hellbent, I don't even know if you could do that in YouTube titles, but I guess I'll give it a shot. I mean, I know the editor won't accept, like, slashes or, like, semicolons, like in the titling department, but who knows, I might give it a shot. Anyway, this is the Doom. Oh yeah, just like how YouTube has the Dom, well Shadow has the Doom. A level that makes even less sense because, I mean, it's meant to be Black Doom trying to convince Shadow that yes, the humans were evil, this is the darkest timeline where nobody cared about him and killed Maria and Gerald. Even though the only cutscene you get of Maria actually dying is in the hero pathway. But, again, like I said, there could have been, like, I mean, considering the fact that Shadow's memory was manipulated by Gerald in Sonic Adventure 2, I think Black Doom could have had the potential to do the same thing here. The problem is, story-wise, it never comes across that way, and as such, well, this level comes off as kind of a waste. And while it does share similar problems with Lost Impact in its, you know, structure, At the same time, though, it's a little bit less egregious because of the fact that its missions are a little bit easier. For the hero pathway, you're just getting the heal capsules to heal the scientists. And in the dark pathway, I'm pretty sure you're just destroying gun soldiers. Yeah, Black Doom joins you for this level, which is weird because he has absolutely no place being here. Because I'm pretty sure at this point the Black Arms had left to go back to their home planet, or so I assume. I don't know, it's weird. Like, I mean, the entire crux of this story is that Black Doom wanted to use Shadow by proxy of Gerald in order to get the Chaos Emeralds for him, which Gerald promised. Which, I mean, is really told to us through exposition, but I would have liked to have seen, like, an actual exchange, you know, through dialogue and cutscenes between Doom and Gerald. Like, I mean, was Gerald being manipulated, or did he not realize Black Doom's intentions until it was too late? Was he just a curious scientist, or was the stress of the job beginning to get to him to the point where he was conspiring with Black Doom? I mean, I would like to think that it would have given Eggman a reason to turn against, you know, Gunn and any sort of government force, but, you know, that would have had to have implied that... I don't know. See, there's all these little potential avenues for the Sonic series to delve into, but they just don't fucking take them, and that makes me so goddamn angry, because the potential for a great story is here. It's just that people say, oh, Sonic is a kid, we can't possibly have actual story momentum, it should be Fuzzles the fucking Wombat in Nostalgia Land, because that's what people want, apparently. Again, I might sound like the only person who actually gives a shit about this, but god damn, like, I mean, if you're gonna have it there in the first place, at least fucking do something with it. I think I only really alluded to it in a bumbling ramble in the last couple of minutes, but I really do like how the arc looks here, especially in this level. I'd never really... well, I think I have talked about the lighting in Shadow the Hedgehog, but it's got like this sort of soft glow effect to it, which I can't help but love. I mean, it makes... I guess to a lot of people it makes the environments look a little bit washed out and grungy, but at the same time, its colour usage, I feel, really does add a certain something to it. I mean, there are a lot of things in 2005 that had this sort of soft glow effect about it, so I don't know if it was just like a trend at the time, kind of like, you know, blurry editing that, you know, was popularised by movies like The Matrix in the early 2000s, but I don't know, I like it. It really does add a certain something to this game which Sonic Heroes didn't have, because Sonic Heroes and I can only really speak for the PS2 version, although honestly even the GameCube and Xbox versions don't really look that much better, outside of a few textures here and there, is that Sonic Heroes in terms of lighting just looked kind of dull. I don't know, I mean, Sonic Heroes isn't really a game worth talking about anyway. Then again, I'm just trying to pad out the time while this level goes by. Again, the most I can really say is that in terms of story and gameplay, it just feels like wasted potential. I mean, you also have Maria to come with you, but again, the fact that this game has a neutral objective, which is actually pretty difficult to track down, actually. I mean, if you're hoping to use Chaos Control, I don't think it's quite as reliable, because it'll just warp you around the level. I guess, considering the fact that Chaos Control is a hero ability, so it probably thinks, oh, you're doing the hero mission, let's take you to this place, which will be where the doctors and scientists are. It's... I don't know. There's also fires which you can actually take out, which again, as I mentioned beforehand, you know, could have done something interesting with the hero mechanic, take out the fires, you know, earn more hero points, eventually get you the good ending. You know, I mean, I think if Shadow the Hedgehog had just like one continuous storyline, had a few little optional side mission things that the hero or villain characters can give you to influence the direction that you're going to go, whether it's hero, villain, or neutral, and then ultimately, you know, move Shadow towards that direction for the final story, I think honestly would have made the game pretty sweet. Again, it's part of the reason why I honestly wouldn't mind a sequel to Shadow the Hedgehog, but again, probably not gonna get it, probably just gonna... Especially after Sonic Forces, actually. Again, there's a real lack of anything else to talk about, so fuck, I might as well let my jaded cynicisms run wild. Especially after Sonic Forces attempted to do the whole, you know, war-torn environment sort of thing, I sincerely doubt we're getting another Sonic game in this sort of art style ever again. Although one thing I will say is that I think Shadow nailed the grungy, war-torn environments a lot better by virtue of its grittier, more realistic art style, which Forces was attempting to meld, like, Lost World with the assets that they had in Generations, which didn't quite work all the way. I do still appreciate the attempt, I just don't think they quite melded as well as I wanted them to. I mean, for me, it's either sticking with one or the other. I mean, if you really are going to go with this whole human dimension with the, you know, realistic humans or and environments or everything, or if you're gonna do the, you know, cartoony Lost World sort of things, then just stick to one or the other.
Mantis platoon, heavy dog reporting in. Primary target and the girl have been located. Acquiring targets. En route to intercept and destroy.
What the?
Please, Shadow, help me.
Humans, willing to sacrifice their own when overcome by greed. They are a foolish race.
Those heartless humans! Get out of my way!
And now we finally get to some Sonic Adventure 2 nostalgia. This is Hedgehog. We are gonna take out this guy who, again, remix of the Sonic Adventure 2 battle theme music. I think even Hedgehog is actually a reference to one of the bombers that I think Sonic fights against. It's either Sonic or Rouge, I can't quite remember. But anyway, this is actually a pretty intricate boss fight for the number of ways that you can take it out. I mean, you can use homing attacks as you want to. You just dodge out of the way of the mines and the particle beam cannon. But it also has something where you can use the missile launchers to easily cream this person. I don't know, it's a decently fun boss fight that I enjoy going back to. And I don't know what this is meant to imply, but is this meant to imply that the gun soldier that was in this capsule was the one that killed Maria? Or at least judging from Black Doom's lines? In fact, I'm honestly curious about that, because I mean, again, the story doesn't bring it up at all, but does Black Doom know about Maria? Like, I mean, I'm guessing that since he worked with Gerald, he would have had to have at least known, since, you know, Gerald was very close to Maria, and the fact that the gun commander was able to spy on him and Gerald creating Shadow, I think might count for something, since kids were apparently allowed into the laboratories with, you know, nary a concern for, you know, children running around exposed to dangerous stuff. Again, details. I would have liked to have learned more of them, game.
What a pathetic sight. Shadow, follow them. Make sure they understand their situation.
Dude, surf the waves, man! Is honestly the vibe that I get from this level's music, which is fucking fantastic. Airfleet is honestly one of my favorite Sonic themes of all time, because it just sounds so radical. I mean, like, if Shadow the Hedgehog had, like, an Emerald Coast sort of level, this should have been the music, because when I hear this music, I think of nothing but totally radical surfing, dude. But anyway, and to respond to a certain someone who said, "You can't tell me what Airfleet sounds like." Fuck you. I can remember what Airfleet sounds like. It's one of the best themes in the game, you Canadian fuckstick. But anyway, I digress, as he would so often say. Airfleet. Honestly, in terms of the level itself, it is actually a pretty decent run-through. I mean, you're pretty much hunting down the President's escape craft, whether to take it down or to, well, basically just take out the Black Arms that are trying to destroy it. Again, as Callum Sparrow pointed out all the way in Part 1, context-driven missions, which I think this level is a decent example of. I mean, granted, I suppose, as I mentioned earlier, I would have preferred to have had it handled in a similar fashion to, you know, just doing these optional side things where you get to the main goal ring and have that focused on your objective. Well, I mean, I guess I say get to the goal ring, but in reality saying that, oh, I have to go here in order to do a thing which means fighting a boss or doing something that continues the story. I guess more in lieu with, you know, Shadow aligning with Black Doom or Sonic or anybody else. I don't know, I'm just tossing out ideas here, nothing really to speak of. Oh, and yes, we finally get to the thing where we get to drive a car. Oh no, Shadow driving vehicles. Why is he in a car? A tee-hee-hee. I cannot fucking believe that Team Sonic Racing is legitimately using that as a fucking story premise. I don't give a shit if it's a fucking spin-off game. There are more reasons to drive a car than fucking speed, you fucking morons. God damn, why am I so bitter about this? What is this series turning me into? Am I becoming this mystical creature known as the Hater that hates things because they're angry people? By the way, I really love the sunset of this level, it's quite nice. And Tails actually has a very thought-provoking line where he says, "I've always taken sunsets for granted. I do fear what's going to go down tonight, which is in reference to the Black Arms completing their ritual, which is, again, I'm not quoting the line one for one, but again, it is very somber and something that I very much appreciate. Wow, that was bipolar as fuck. I went from immediately yelling at the Sonic series to singing its praises. This is what the series does to you. Don't ever become a fan of the Sonic series, kids. You'll simultaneously love, hate, and not care about Sonic, all at seemingly random intervals. It's an addiction. Help me! Help me! I jest. Except I don't jest. I actually do need help. Help. But I do jest. I don't know. I don't even know anymore. I don't know up from down. Anyway, in terms of how the vehicles control, I honestly don't think it's as fucking bad as people say it is. I mean, is it clunky? Yes. But to be perfectly honest, I have an easier time controlling the vehicles here than I do in Grand Theft Auto 4. Which was actually part of the reason why I didn't really complete that game, because I just didn't like how the vehicles controlled. Well, I mean, then again, I didn't really complete Grand Theft Auto games back around the times they came out. I more or less just fucked around in the hub world, but that's neither here nor there in this case. I mean, the way in which you control it is that you press the X button to accelerate, you use the left analog stick to reverse and back up. And, you know, while some vehicles are clearly more maneuverable than others, I mean, I will say that the convertible and the motorcycle control better than the gun trucks. You know, they are vehicles that give you an extra layer of health, and if you have a gun, you know, you can pretty much pick ammo as you go along, and again, you can move along like a bit of an invincible tank, which is great, and part of why I honestly do like the fact that the vehicles are optional. You don't have to drive around in a car, but, you know, it's a little something extra you can do on the side. Again, it's part of that little Sega game design philosophy that you wouldn't see with a company like, say, Nintendo, where it would be like, oh look, there's a car, I guess you have to complete a puzzle now, go Shadow, complete puzzles to do shit, because fuck you, it's gotta be a challenge rather than, you know, fantasy empowerment, which is exactly what Shadow the Hedgehog is to me. It's pretty much, you know, 2005, the game. You know, with all the, you know, badass aggressive attitude, hell yeah, let's kick some ass, you know, the heavy metal music and all that sort of stuff, just rolled into a video game which, you know, encapsulated all the tropes. I mean, it still had platform mascots around the time. It had the early proceedings of a lot of the extreme first-person shooters and third-person shooters that were coming out at the time. And again, it just... Again, it's part of Shadow's charm to me, is that, you know, while a lot of people will go out and say, oh, it's dark and edgy, it's bad and terrible, honestly, to me it's a selling point, because it literally is reveling in its tropes, whereas a game like, say, you know, Sonic Forces, which tries to go for a more darker toned story, it doesn't commit to it. Shadow the Hedgehog, on the other hand, does commit to it, and the game is all the better for it, because for those who are just looking to mock the game for going tee-hee edginess from the 2000s, let's laugh, it provides you with a lot of genuine material. But even for the people that do genuinely love this game as a legitimate power fantasy, you know, it provides just that and satisfies both companies. I don't know, maybe it's just because we live in an age where everybody is so self-conscious about their appearance and their status in life, and, you know, they have to decry everything as, oh my god, it's so cringe, with this eternal detached sarcasm, which I would be fine with, but, you know, like, I mean, in the 90s, you at least still had extreme stuff in tandem with this, but nowadays it's just like, oh no, cringe, I don't feel like doing shit, because I'm a lazy fucking teen fucking fucko fuckity fuck bananas. Sorry, I just lost my mind there for a few seconds. I just rambled into nothingness. I don't even know where I am anymore. This game is tearing me apart. Maybe I'm hallucinating with Shadow. Maybe I'm constantly reliving this commentary, and I am Shadow the Hedgehog. Maria, I'm sorry. I keep letting you die. Why will you not stop haunting me? Oh god. I am Shadow the Hedgehog, the ultimate video game commentator, commentating from my commentary position. This is who I am! Yeah, that's the real true ending of Shadow the Hedgehog. He wasn't an actual hedgehog, he was a human named Solidus-Skully. No idea why I needed to show that, because that was like just a few seconds of footage. Anyway, this is the Black Comet. It's basically Final Haunt's table scraps. I don't really like this level that much because it's a bit long-winded, and in turn it doesn't quite have the same sort of build-up that Final Haunt or The Last Way had. I don't know. It's mostly because of the fact that you're basically just hovering around on sources and just trying to get to the end, but Well, I suppose it's that, and it's also a mission where you have to kill all the gun soldiers, which are pretty sparsely spaced out. I'm not really sure if I'm going to show this level in its entirety, both to save down on space, but again, I guess I will show it off just to show the level off. I mean, I didn't really grant Lost Impact the same sort of courtesy, but then again, that was for understandable reasons. But yeah, not really too much else to say about this level. I mean, your support character for this one is Black Doom, obviously, and Knuckles. And I suppose, I guess, to divulge a little bit more about this storyline, this is the storyline where Shadow sides with Black Doom. And, well, again, if Black Doom actually had a convincing argument beyond humans suck, I probably would have cared, but no, we don't really have a reason beyond humans suck, let's use them as an energy source and have a bunch of vague teasings as to what we actually want to do with them. I don't know. Like, again, it has that, again, as I mentioned before, it has that sort of Xehanort effect of, I'm the big bad villain that manipulated everything because I'm evil, and I won't actually state my intentions until it becomes dramatically relevant, which, I mean, at the very least in Kingdom Hearts 3, you at least finally got that with Xehanort, but Black Doom is never to be seen again, so we won't get anything from this. Jesus Christ. Actually, you know what? Fuck it, I've lost my mind. Who cares? Let's talk about Kingdom Hearts 3 for a little bit. I completed the game a little while ago, actually, so it's a little bit off topic. I really liked it. I mean, again, as a sequel to the series, and, you know, being a fan, obviously, that probably explains why. But, again, while you could probably accuse the game of being a little bit too, let's wrap everything up from the spin-off, but not spin-off games, like, you know, Birth by Sleep through to, well, what's basically Dream Drop Distance and 358 over 2 days. You know, I like the closure that every character got, even if it did end up somewhat retconning some of the tragic elements of their backstories, particularly in the case of characters like Roxas and Xion, but I don't know, I had fun with it. Also, apparently, Sora is dead. Well, not dead, but lost in either realistic Earth or The World Ends With You, or that, like, Final Fantasy Versus 13 project that Tetsuya Nomura has been wanting to work on, and basically pulled a Hideo Kojima by including elements of that into, well, what I can only assume is either Kingdom Hearts 4, or whatever other spin-off that they plan to make in the future. Hopefully another card game, because I really like Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. And I'm being genuine with that, because Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories is delicious. Damn, I thought Kingdom Hearts would take me further than that, but apparently not. I suppose a lot of people's complaints about Shadow the Hedgehog also stem from levels like this, in the sense that a lot of the architecture looks very similar, and it could have used a little bit more iconic landmarks. You know, I guess maybe like a temple here or there, or perhaps even like a birthing station where you can see some gelatinous death leeches, which is the little squelchy creatures that Shadow stepped on in the final story. You know, just some cool visual imagery to really set these places apart, but I don't know. I thought it would have been cool anyway. I suppose if there's really anything else to bring up in terms of anything else. No, that's about it. I mean, I guess if I could bring an apt comparison and one that does kind of offend me on a deeper level than the stuff that people sing at Shadow the Hedgehog would be Devil May Cry 3. Whereas a lot of people tend to love the environments of that game, but I honestly don't find the Temini grew all that well designed in terms of its artistic merit, and, well, save for the very, very last area before you go off and fight Arkham and Virgil, but even in that case, that's a lot of levels in Devil May Cry 3 are pretty much just riding off the coattails of Devil May Cry 1, except done a little bit more bland and generic, which, I mean, again, if you could give Devil May Cry 2 anything, despite what people would say about that game, at least you had a wide variety of levels to choose from, which, you know, I appreciate. And speaking of which, I need to get Devil May Cry 5, actually, because that came out quite recently. There's also Resident Evil 2 Remake, which I'm going to get my hands on as soon as I get some cash together. So many games coming out this... Well, I mean, there are so many games, but there are also not too many games coming out this year that really take my interest. I mean, the only other one I'm planning on getting after the Resident Evil 2 Remake and Devil May Cry 5 is, I think, Shenmue 3? Catherine Full Body as well, actually, which I'm hoping to pick up as well, because Catherine is actually a puzzle game I really, really love, and before you start suggesting it, no, not just because of the sex elements. Well, mostly because they don't really show anything off anyway. What has this commentary done to me? I'm talking about fucking Catherine of all games. Seriously though, it is a legitimately good puzzle game. I do highly recommend it. Story's a bit iffy though, but yeah, what can you do? Let's see, what else is coming out this year? Not too much I'm really interested... Well, Doom Eternal, possibly. Actually, that reminds me, there was a like, Doom movie, like a direct-to-DVD movie called Doom Annihilation coming out, which I hadn't really heard anything of, which is apparently going to be released, like, in the second quarter of this year, so soon. Seems a little bit strange to drop that, especially considering the fact that, from the looks of things, and at least what I glimpsed off Wikipedia and of the character roster, it seems to be doing something of a Doom 3 thing. I don't know, it seems weird, especially considering the fact that I think most people in today's day and age would recognize Doom 2016 more than, you know, Doom 3, which, you know, while I do like Doom 3 quite a bit, as you could probably tell throughout my commentary of the game a couple of years ago, seems like a bit of an odd ducks. I mean, I don't know, I'll just have to wait and see if the movie comes out, really, because I don't know if I brought it up in the review, but I am interested in seeing the Doom movie done again. I mean, if it's any good, then I'll like it, but from what I've heard from the response of a lot of people, it doesn't look too well, so we'll just have to wait and see. I apologise if I'm not talking much about the game, but, well, again, this level is a little bit long-winded, and we've got plenty of level left to go, so get comfy, kids. Might as well just turn this into the Solidus-Skully Power Hour, talking about whatever's on my mind. Listen to the radio. Oh yeah. I was going to talk about Duel Masters, but I pretty much expunged all my tangents throughout the review, which was recently released. Well, I mean, I say recently released, but I'm talking about from my perspective of being back in time in, April, whereas, you know, now, you're watching this in March, where I would have hopefully have released something a little bit more substantial. I mean, hopefully by this point I've finished the Doki Doki Literature Club review. Hopefully I've got Devil May Cry out, and then I can finally get on to, some other projects. I guess in regards to Sonic, I don't really know what my future lies within the series, because I've had this idea in my head for so many fucking years. I mean, ever since 2017, actually, after Sonic Forces came out, I've had this idea building up in my head, but I've never really knew how to go about it, which I think might satisfy the people that are looking for, you know, a greater influx of Sonic content, especially considering the fact that I haven't gotten around to the adventure games, which I do want to cover, but again, at the risk of sounding completely redundant to what everybody else has said in terms of, you know, legitimate critiques in terms of its technical aspects, at the same time I also do want to gush about the game and explore some of the finer points of it in a way that a lot of people rarely, if ever, talk about these days, or at the very least without people going, oh yeah, well, it's age badly, so you're not allowed to like it anymore. I don't know. It's become, like, I don't know whether it's the fandom or if it's the quality of the games themselves or if it's just, you know, the general audience or people that don't understand it, but you can't... I feel like you can't ever legitimately have a conversation about the Sonic series anymore without people having this sort of dismissive attitude about it, like, oh, well, the Sonic series sucks. You can't really genuinely like it or get invested. Which I guess is really the big reason for my cynicism. I mean, I wouldn't mind, you know, people's thoughts on, you know, different games, even if we have disagreements, if it wasn't for the fact that everybody gets so dismissive the moment you try and analyze the games on a deeper level than, yeah, they were fun video games, and that's it. I don't know, it's just very frustrating because you never get this sort of stuff with any other like, pretty much any other franchise or fan base. I mean, you know, take Jak and Daxter, for example. Jak 1 was lighthearted as could be. You never hear anybody outside of, you know, a few select fans who say that, oh, well, in my opinion, Jak 2 was too dark and edgy, and it should have been Jak 1 where it was Happy the fucking elf man in Elfland doing elf things. Like, I mean, even in things like Sly Raccoon, you know, which actually did have a decent story to it, you know, even games like, you know, Sly 2 and 3, and well, I hesitate to use 4 considering the story quality, but, you know, you wouldn't hear people, you know, going, oh, you can't have serious stories with animal mascot platformers and that. It's something that I just don't fucking get. I mean, is it a Nintendo thing? Is it because we had games like, you know, Banjo-Kazooie or whatever that lacked any sort of, I guess, deeper, in quotation marks, story? I mean, that doesn't really hold water in and of itself, because, I mean, you know, the Nintendo 64 had fucking Conker's Bad Fur Day, a game which, while it was very parodial, it did still have a legitimately engaging story despite a lot of its jokes and snarks, you know? Is it like a visual thing? I don't fucking understand. What is the deal, man? I guess maybe this also might explain why I'm a little bit hesitant to talk about platformers a lot of the time, or at least among a lot of other gamers with it. I mean, again, I'm not I'm not shy about giving my opinions, but at the same time I just dislike having pretty much any and all discussion about the game in terms of, you know, a thematic or a deeper level. I'm pretty much upset by it, shut up, it's about gameplay, or it's just for kids, stop analysing it. It makes my brain hurt because I'm a fucking... Yeah, I'm not gonna say that because that's a bit offensive, so sorry. Don't mind me, I'm just bitter old Solidus-Skully. Wasting too much time and brain power in video games, which probably could have been better spent on things like, I don't know, football, like computer technology, physics, psychology, solving the world's water shortage, going up into space and conquering the galaxy in my spaceship, which I apparently have for some reason. Well, anyway, we're coming near to the end of the level. I hope you've appreciated my rants and rambles, which is all I seem to do in these commentaries anyway. Spent nearly an hour here, and my throat's getting incredibly hoarse. But I suppose, if nothing else, again, despite my complaints and my bitter ramblings, I am having fun with Shadow the Hedgehog. And honestly, I do hope you're entertained by this as well. I mean, I know I'm not the funniest person around, but, you know, I hope the positive vibes and energy that I've felt throughout this commentary transfers onto you, because I feel like if a commentator is enjoying the game, then the players themselves will enjoy it. I don't know. Let's relapse.
Finally, I've got all the Chaos Emeralds. Shadow, why? Why are you siding with them? I'm Shadow the Hedgehog, the ultimate life form born to protect and serve the Dark Lord, Black Doom. With the power of these Chaos Emeralds, this world will become the Dark Empire. This is who I am.